All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Hannah Crapo, and I'm the content marketing manager here at Certiport. We're so happy to have everyone spending a little bit of your time with us this afternoon. We're here today for our 7th Certified Academy Business webinar. Now, I'm going to open up the chat here in just a moment. So if you are joining us from inside the United States or outside the United States, please feel free to drop into the chat, let us know, and also what classes that you teach so that we can all get to know each other a little bit better. The session that we are hosting today is being recorded, so you'll receive a link to the full recording after our presentation is wrapped this afternoon. Because of that, all of our attendees are currently on mute. So if you have a question for our panelists, feel free to drop those into either the chat or the Q&A feature, and we'll make sure to address those as we go throughout our conversation today. We did want to give a quick highlight to our session sponsor, which is Intuit and Intuit certification programs. By differentiating your school's business, accounting, and finance entrepreneurship programs, you can use the Intuit QuickBooks Certified User, Intuit Certified Bookkeeping Professional, and Intuit Design for Delight certification exams. And I will make sure to drop the link to more information about our Intuit certification programs here in the chat shortly. Now, today, of course, we are talking about preparing students for careers in accounting and finance, and we have some fabulous experts here joining us. Our first is Yvonne Hobbs, who is a multitasking guru, founder and CEO of Integrated Technical Solutions Incorporated, parent company of Quick Look Accounting Solutions and ITS Training Institute. Yvonne has been an innovator in the IT and finance industry for over 25 years and counting. She has pursued various levels of higher education and completed several certifications, such as the Microsoft Certified Trainer, Intuit Certified Bookkeeper, Intuit Certified Pro Advisor for both the online and desktop versions, network administration, and website development, just to name a few. She maintains these certifications to stay current and knowledgeable in IT and finance. She offers hands-on and virtual training via ITS Training Institute and as an adjunct professor at Northern Virginia Community College. She has served as an adjunct professor at various universities in Atlanta, Georgia, New York City, and now in Virginia. Our second panelist is Lenice DeLuca, who currently works as an instructor at Immokalee. You're going to have to help me. Immokalee. Thank you, Lenice. Okay. Immokalee Technical College in Southwest Florida, where she teaches courses in accounting operations and global logistics and supply chain technology. Previously, she spent 9 years as a middle school teacher at Collier County Public Schools. Throughout her career, Lenice has developed a passion for career and technical education, and she is committed to helping her students gain the skills they need to succeed and thrive in our technology-driven world. Lenice has a bachelor's degree in accounting and an MBA and MA in international business. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and dive into our discussion today. So before we get too far into it, I wanted to give you ladies a chance to introduce yourself. So Lenice, we'll start with you. Give us a quick introduction into the work that you do and the students that you work with.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I see Jesus from Spain. That's fabulous. I love it. And I see in the chat some members from my own great state of Florida. So, Kuwait. Oh my gosh. This is like, I got goosebumps. I'm just telling you. I have been teaching for a little over 10 years. I have started, like Hannah said, teaching middle school business technology when the whole Microsoft thing started. And I'm just very passionate about certifications. I waited about 9 years to get my dream job, and that was to teach accounting. And I received it. I've been into it about a year. Very small classes, which is fine, very one-on-one, very collaborative. So my students love that part of it. They're not in that quote 30 or 40 or 50 kids in a classroom. So that helps them. Global logistics is new for us. We're the first school in Southwest Florida to offer it. Our equipment for that class is coming in May. I'm so excited. The closest school that does it is Valencia, and they have a fabulous program. So accounting is my passion, and believe me, debits and credits is my thing. So
wonderful. Thank you so much, Lenice. Yvonne, we'll pass it over to you to give us a quick introduction.
Hello, everyone. I'm Yvonne Hobbs. And I truly, truly believe in certifications. That is the track that I prefer to train my users. I believe in certification because I just know that it is a proven skill set, and you have to demonstrate that you are able to complete those tasks. Okay, so I have been working in the workforce development since I've been 23 years old, training professionals how to operate and use the computers. And then I was introduced to accounting at the age of maybe 27, working in the controller's office. And then I really, really loved working with numbers. I really enjoyed helping and assisting, other business users to really fully understand the QuickBooks software, and for them to clearly know and understand that QuickBooks is not accounting, that the accounting is being performed behind the scene. But in order to accurately use the QuickBooks software, you need to have that fundamental understanding of what accounting is. So it is my goal and objective that they understand how those debits and credits are, working in the QuickBooks environment or other software application. Of course, I love Intuit. I love the QuickBooks products. I have an accounting firm in which I use those products daily. So that's my track, that's my story, and looking forward to talking to you guys.
Wonderful. And I'm glad you gave us both such a fabulous introduction into the work that you do. And I love what you highlighted, Yvonne, that it's not just about learning the technology, it's about learning the principles. And that's, I think, a lot of what we're going to be discussing today. So for our first question, as we're talking about preparing students for careers in accounting and finance, I wanted to look at the industry as a whole and talk about what skills are hiring managers who are looking to fill these positions in accounting and finance teams looking for in their prospective employees. So Lenice, will come to you first.
Okay, great. I am finding, well, first and foremost, I'm going to say something, and it's called typing. Typing. If they can't use a keyboard or they can't use a number pad, it's going to be tough for them. I see all kinds, 1 finger, 2 fingers. My students type, it's required, and it's part of our curriculum. And the basic knowledge, they need to know those basic accounting skills. That if you're using a textbook, that chapter 1, 2, and 3, how to prepare T accounts, how to prepare a balance sheet, how to prepare an income statement, because we can give them all the technology, which we do into QuickBooks or whatever software. But if they don't understand what goes into that, they're not going to be any good to any employer. My students, I find, and what I hear is they get tested. If they're going to a job interview, okay, I can type 50 words a minute, take the test. If you know QuickBooks or if you know accounting, take the accounting test, take the QuickBooks test. They are going to test the students. So give them as much knowledge as you have to push it out so they can get through that interview.
I love that. It's not enough to be able to write it on the resume, right? You need to be able to show it when they come in for that interview. I think that's awesome. Yvonne, any thoughts from you on, as you're preparing students and preparing maybe even people who are looking for job switching, what are the skills that these finance teams are looking for?
Right. So in addition to have good accounting fundamental skills, they need to have a good understanding of the Microsoft Excel product. Because when you have gathered and collected and enter all that information into the QuickBooks software, now you need to learn how to export that data, manipulate that data, or pivot that data so you can generate awesome reports. And we know that in the QuickBooks and the Excel environment, once you have exported those reports to the Excel environment, then you will get a QuickBooks tab that will be connected to your Excel software, and you have the ability to update those reports as needed. So I like that feature and function. And when someone is applying for a job and they understand how the accounting and the QuickBooks and everything works together, and then they have their final output in Excel, I think that is a good component to have, the Microsoft Excel, and also the Outlook. So there's a lot of businesses that depend on that data that's collected in a QuickBooks environment, and then they want to do a lot of manipulation. I have one client who wants to export their customers, and they also use that with the MailChimp software, where they can send information to their customers that the QuickBooks software have collected. And again, I talk a lot about QuickBooks because that's the environment that I really teach my students how to use accounting fundamentals. Once we have created the task manually, then of course we put it into the QuickBooks software.
I think it's important that you've both talked about skills that relate directly, of course, to accounting, but then more broadly, these business skills. It's not just about preparing students with one set of skills, one technology. It's about the more holistic picture of being able to walk in and be productive on that first day. So I know that's kind of the framework that you're going into your class with, is what can I do to make sure my students are most prepared? And Lenice, you talked about some of those foundational skills like typing, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that as well. So what are these skills as we're looking to build our curriculum around what industry is looking for? What skills do you focus on specifically with your students and helping them learn in the classroom?
Can you repeat that? Because you cut out again.
No, that's okay. Yes, of course.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Froze.
In thinking about these skills that are in demand in industry, we have to, of course, build a curriculum around that and teach these skills in the classroom. So what are some of these foundational skills that you want your students to learn while they're in your class?
Well, because I'm here in Florida and we're a technical college, of course, we have to go by whatever our framework is. You know, I'm a rebel and I'll push back on some of the stuff. But a big component of what we are doing here in Florida is the digital literacy. If you're going to get a job as an office manager, you may be the only one in the office. You're the office manager, the clerk, you're the receptionist, you're the bookkeeper, you're everything. The owner comes out or the boss comes out and his computer's not working. You have to figure out why. That's what you're being paid to do and what you're hired to do. So the soft skills to me are really, really, really important. And, you know, my students, I remember I had a young man and he was going through the IC3, one of the tests, and he didn't know what Siri was. And he was shocked. I didn't know about it. So it was just that little bit of soft skill that he knows he knows what Siri is. It's silly, but it's the same thing when we're talking about the fundamentals of accounting. You need to be able to visualize that in your brain to apply that to QuickBooks. Here in Florida, our frameworks do not include QuickBooks. It's bookkeeping. So I push them towards QuickBooks because we know employers want it, but for me, it's that base knowledge. And I'm telling you, I had them today. They took transactions and they can't wrap their heads around it, and they're making T account after T account after T account. What increases, what decreases? Eventually they'll get to QuickBooks, but they got to know it here to how the software makes it work to their advantage. So it's all the communication. Personal communication is part of our framework. And the high school counselors that I'm talking to is, these kids can't communicate. They don't even know how to do an interview. So we practice that. I did one with a former student. She walked in and the first thing they asked her is, what's an asset? What's the normal side of an asset? They drilled her. And she was so excited that she knew that because we drilled it into them here. I hope that makes sense.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And I know that's something that we talked about previously, those baseline accounting skills and understanding the terms, being able to know them backwards and forwards is so important before they can dive into any accounting platform, whether it's QuickBooks or another application that employers are using. They have to be able to know the skills to apply them in the technological setting.
How does the program work? How does that program work? I love the program. I use it all the time. I made a ton of money because people didn't know how to use it because I had to fix it. But you know, I would rather them know than have to hire me to fix it. So That's
Well,
what,
and I think what you touched on is super important as well, that these students are going to be walking into an interview, and it's much easier for them to get the answer wrong on a test than it is
Right.
to not know the answer when they go
Right.
into a job
Yep.
interview. Yeah,
Yep.
I love that. Yvonne, what are your thoughts? What are some of these foundational skills that you're helping your learners with as you're teaching?
Well, we definitely do the accounting fundamental manually first, so they can definitely understand what's happening and what causes these effects, why the asset size are increasing, and which side they increase on, which she's talking about the normal balance side, correct? And so once they get to understand, because I said, if you get it wrong on the paper, you're going to get it wrong on the software. And it doesn't matter if it's the QuickBooks software environment, if it's Sage, if it's FreshBooks, once you, or even in the Excel, that single entry accounting system. But once you have created, once you have a good understanding of the accounting fundamentals, the software is not the issue. I use QuickBooks because it is user-friendly. But if you get it wrong on the paper manually, you will get it wrong into the accounting software. But we have to transition them from the manual environment, because yes, we do use software, and those software is, make our life and make our jobs much easier, right? And with that, we have what we call app integration that works, that makes the flow much easier, where we are importing a lot of data into these softwares. So now that they have a good understanding of accounting, they still need to know how to operate in that accounts payable environment and accounts receivable environment, learn how to create journals. So the fundamentals of accounting is important, because if they have to make any type of adjustments, they have to understand the debits and credits, and that information has to balance. And so foundation is key. So yeah, I agree.
And building off of that, I know one of the things in our previous conversations that we talked about as well is not just understanding the accounting basics, and I know that this is a component of that, but understanding the financial statements and what those mean. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. How do you help your students understand the categories of debits and credits and these financial statements that are so important? And these students are expected to walk into the job just knowing?
go ahead,
So
Yvonne.
Lenise, we'll have you
Go
answer
ahead,
that. Yeah,
Yvonne.
absolutely.
Go to Yvonne. Yep.
Well, I love that part of it because they have to understand that the transaction that they are creating daily impacts how the information is being populated on those financial statements. So when we look at the balance sheets, when you're starting a business, majority of all your startup costs is, hey, I'm opening this banking account, so we have, sometimes there's a big conflict with CPA, whether or not we're going to use our open balance equity or whether we're going to put it in as capital. So in the QuickBooks environment, we normally will put the bank statement in the open balance. But when we teach an accounting, we let them know that this could be an investment, getting this business started, or it could be there's partners who literally, want to be paid back. So we have to discuss that. And literally we walk through every transaction step by step, so we are generating the report so they can see exactly what happened. Did this particular transaction impact the balance statement, or did it impact the profit and loss statement? So now they're able to see, oh, okay, so nothing happened with the profit and loss, because we let them know that on the profit and loss, only the income, only the expenses are impacted, or maybe if it's a product type business and they have cost of goods. This is all you're going to see on this particular statement, right? And I said, then think about what accounts impact the balance sheet. And so, when we create an invoice, and then we have the opportunity to talk about the different type of accounting system, whether this is the accrual method we're using or the cash basis, and what the reports, because in a QuickBooks environment, you can toggle on the reports and select whether or not we want to run this report in a cash-based method or the accrual method. So they are able to see on the fly what's happening behind the scenes. So I love that.
Yeah. And I love that you have to almost showcase it in real time, right? And how it impacts businesses differently. I think that's fabulous. Lenise, did you have any thoughts about that, about teaching and helping students understand financial statements?
Well, I have them once they do their transactions, and if we're doing a problem, I have them put it in Excel. I said, okay, let's create our own. Let's create our own. We do the income statement first, we do the statement of owner's equity, then we do the balance sheet, because those three feed into each other. And that gives them a whole different perspective. I tell them, you can pull anything you want out of any accounting software. Where, what are you going to do when you see a negative balance in accounts receivable? What are you going to do? And they look at me. I said, if you see a negative balance in accounts receivable, what kind of account is it? Well, it's an asset. What's the normal balance? A debit. So what are you going to do when you see a credit? You're going to give that financial statement to your controller, your office manager, or the boss? Go back and check what happened. Did you not bill somebody? And QuickBooks is good at that, because you can see that they paid money and we didn't do the invoice. There you go. You're on accrual. We need to book that invoice. Get that invoice in, and now we'll straighten out the balance sheet or the accounts receivable. Same thing with payables. Same thing with the prepaids. I drill those main accounts, especially receivables and payables, because they really have a hard time with that. And I go over it 100 times with them. I said, if you can't figure it out on paper, then that financial statement isn't going to do you any good. You know, what if you see a negative in an expense account? You got to go back and look at it. What happened? You're the researcher, not just a data entry clerk. You are responsible.
I like that. You're the researcher, not just the data analyst,
That's
right?
right.
It's not just about inputting data.
Nope.
It's about being able to be a problem solver. And so I think creating these projects and assignments in the classroom so students can learn that level of detail, learn those skills, is so important. And I know you each have a different approach that you've taken for how you teach these in the classroom. So Lenise, I wanted to come to you. What are some of the projects and assignments you've done with your students that really help them prepare for that level of detail, that mindset of being a researcher?
First off, when I came, the book we had, because we have to have a textbook because we're a college. The book we had was, you know, this book about this big, and it was it was nothing. I went out and got a college level financial accounting 1 book for them, which is about this thick. So it's a reference book for them now. It really doesn't change. What changes is the tax implications, and that's a subject for another day. So we go through them, and this book is set up to do the baby steps. I love it because we have comprehensive problems. So let's do the T accounts, let's do the journal entries, let's do the general ledger. Today they worked on, and I was so proud of them, they took the problem, they had to put it in to the software, which the book we use, I use Cengage. They had to put it in, they had to balance out the T accounts, and on their own with the book, they did an unadjusted trial balance. And they figured it out. They figured it out. And we went a little bit further ahead, and I said, now the next day or the next couple days or after break, we're going to do a 10-column worksheet in Excel. They're learning the bits and pieces of Excel in baby steps, because Excel it's a monster, it's a beast.
Yes.
For them to learn. So they're doing it in baby steps. They're learning equal this plus this, hit enter, don't hit tab. So, and they'll do it 5-6 times or Mr. Luke, I need help. Okay. Look what you did. Let's fix it. So I use the book with Excel. I use the book, and fortunately with the book that Cengage, the platform we have, it has Excel interactions. It has general ledger interactions. So they're seeing it from that perspective. And then they'll understand when they sit down and do QuickBooks. Oh, that's what she was talking about. So yeah, the book I'm using, I'm pretty happy with.
Love that.
I threw a question out there. What are you guys using? What are they using? What are their schools requiring of them? Hopefully they have a chance to pick their own book.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I know I'd be interested to see what learning materials everyone's using, whether it's a textbook, video-based training, and what software are you teaching to. So let's see if we can get some comments there in the chat about that so that we can
That'd
get
be
a
great.
feel for what everyone's learning with. Yvonne, let's come to you next. What are some projects that you use with your students to help them prepare for becoming either an accountant or some type of career in finance?
Awesome. So I use a book called Principles of Accounting, and that's by, oh, I'm going to mess up his name, Schumann. And also I use Excel for accounting. And that book is created by Labyrinth. Mess that up. And of course, I have my own handouts. So we create a service-based business accounting project as well as a project-based accounting. We also do nonprofit accounting because you know that the nonprofit terminology is totally different. It's not called the profit and loss, and it's not called the balance sheet. And so with these activities, of course, they have to do it manually, and we do use Excel as well. So we actually create our T manually on the paper as well as use Excel. And then we transition. I can tell you right now, from the first day, they are ready to go to our software, okay? And they're ready to just start putting the information in, but we have to explain to them the importance of why they need to get it right on the paper, why we need to build a foundation. And then once the information is entered into the software, they'll understand what's happening behind the scenes. Because in the software environment, you're really using forms. Manually, you know, we're spending a lot of time learning how to properly categorize those transactions. We're talking about the chart of accounts. So you have to really create projects that really work, that what's going on now, because the principles of accounting, you know, you can cover that manually, you can cover it in the software, but when you have them using app integration or their invoicing system is in an app that's being imported, but they still need to know, hey, what's happening? What account is capturing all this information? How can I decipher this information? How can I manipulate the reports, and etc.
And I like that. And I'm seeing some people here in the chat who take a similar approach. There's the integration of using applications, but then also paper and pencil. I don't think that it's super sexy these days to draw a T account on a piece of paper and write it out, but there's something to be said for that tactile approach to learning, having students write it down and see it and not just take the shortcut of having a computer kind of solve the problem for them, because I think that's where that foundational level of understanding really comes from. And I know you've both touched on a couple different things, but I wanted to talk about this element as well. As we're preparing these students for careers, I think it's so important for them to walk away from their education with a credential that shows this is what I know, and being able to walk into a job interview feeling empowered with that level of kind of credentialing, if you will, to be able to show these employers that this is what I can do. So I wanted to talk, and we'll come to you first, Yvonne, for what certifications are you offering to your students to help them bolster their resume as they're looking for these jobs in finance and accounting?
Number one, the Intuit Certified Professional Bookkeeper. I was so happy. So I was part of the beta testing. So I was one of the first one that took the test. We were so excited because we wanted to see exactly what questions was on the test, the ease of use, and if, you know, how we can change or redefine the materials that we currently use to ensure that these students can pass this test, okay? And so I passed the test on the first try. Thank you. It wasn't that difficult. It was very, it is user friendly, but everything that we're covering in those accounting fundamentals, they still need their calculator manually for that particular test because they don't have time to use any software. You know, you have that 50 minutes, you know, working time to get this test completed. In addition to that, the QuickBooks certified user. Okay, so we're still talking with Intuit about this because the QuickBooks certified user is really so they can understand the product. Okay, it's different from them having the accounting fundamentals, so it's totally two different type of tests. And one of them is just understanding the software that you're using, how to make this deposit, how to create a sales receipt. So it's different from being a certified bookkeeper. So both of those are needed. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to cover your bases, right? That it's about understanding of accounting, and that's more of the bookkeeping professional certification. And then if you have students who want to be able to work with these firms that use QuickBooks, that they also have an understanding and certification in that area. So covering bases that way. And Lanice, I know you've talked about the certifications as well. So I'm interested, what certifications do you offer?
The first ones they tackle is, because we have a digital literacy component in the framework, they do the IC3, the GS5. Right now, we're moving to GS6. It's a little bit harder test. They get the components, they do Spark, then they start Word. A lot of students struggle with it because of the format of it. We've been using geometrics. We're kind of maybe changing that, sorry. But it's the students are my clients. So, you have to look at it that way. What is going to benefit them? And they're all different users. So I do that. I do Word, Excel, and Outlook, because those are the three per my advisory board, that they are the ones that they're looking for. They really don't care about PowerPoint right now because there's so much online stuff out there. So that's private. Then the certified bookkeeping, and then they'll top it off with QuickBooks. Now, the reason, and this is where I butt heads with everybody. You need to know what's on your funding list. Also, we do the entrepreneurship. We do personal communication. They do those on their own, and they use the products for that. Whatever they want and I have available, they can take. The rub with the QuickBook, with the certified bookkeeping professional test, is it may not be yet on your CAPE funding list. So the rub is to do QuickBooks. So I have to try to fit both of them in to make everybody happy. Same thing right now. Entrepreneurship is the flavor of the week here in Florida. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was a different exam. They want everybody to take entrepreneurship. And again, I fight with administration. I fight. Not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. Why are we doing this to these kids? So my students know which ones they have to have before I'll sign off. And then the ones that they want to have: personal communication, entrepreneurship, whatever they see on my list, they can take. So,
well, I think it's important to know the pathway that your students are kind of planning on, right? Not every career pathway demands all of the skills that are available, right? As far as the breadth of certification programs are concerned. Yvonne, I see that you have your hand raised, so I wanted to pass it over to you.
Yeah, so today I was really just focusing on accounting and intuitive certification, but we train users in a lot of the different applications to include the Adobe certification, as well as the IC3 for project management, and also I said Microsoft, so all the Microsoft Office suite as well. So we have the PMI, the Project Management Institute, that we're really excited about.
Yeah, and that's a whole other set of skills, right? So I love that you've both talked about skills and certifications as it relates specifically to the field of accounting, but also that there's a world out there where they need to build these soft skills. They need to have skills outside of what's considered just a finance skill set. They need to be able to balance and communicate. They need to be able to be analytical. So there's a lot, and to Lanice's point, if they do become entrepreneurs and they're keeping their own books, I mean, I think there's a lot of different pathways that these skills can lead students to. So being able to understand the pathway, what your students are passionate about, what they're interested in pursuing, and making your student kind of your client. I love what you said, Lanice, that they're the ones that we're here to serve. And so being able to give them the skills that they need and the industry is looking for, and balancing kind of those two together, it can lead to a lot of different places. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to get one last question in and talk about what advice would you share with our educators who are here listening live and those who will be watching the recording about preparing students for careers in accounting and finance. Lenice, will come to you first.
Oh, boy. Honestly, I have dual enrollment students. I have high school juniors and seniors as well. And my adult students who start at 18 years old. I tell them, get as much as you can in, take as many certifications as you can, learn everything you can. Because when you step into that interview, number one, you don't know what they're going to ask. You may have a conversation about what happened on the news last night. I'm a news hound and I bring up news and they go, oh yeah, I heard that. That leads into a discussion and getting them to communicate. I will tell educators, I am a proponent of no cell phones in the classroom. It's a struggle, it's a fight. It's hard with adults, but I don't tolerate it. You need to be laser focused on what you're doing. I shouldn't have to spend 3 weeks showing you how to make a T account. You should be able to get that within a week, within a day, within 2 days. So they have to be prepared. When they go out on a job interview, I tell them, go research the company, no more than the employer. Go on their website. Go in with a list of questions. You interview them. Don't let them interview you. And we all make that mistake. You know, I've been on interviews and with the school districts, all of you teachers know, they give you a list of questions on a piece of paper. Well, the mistake I made all the time is not asking them what I need to do. And then I have to come in and figure it out myself. So you interview them, but it's the communication. They're just so used to cell phones, and stop it. You know, don't do a WebEx in an interview. Tell them you want to meet in person. Show them who you are. I want to shake your hand. I have to teach students how to shake hands. It is. They don't know. I don't know. So tying a tie, they do not know. So educators, give them anything. It doesn't have to be in that curriculum. Anything, because you're teaching business, you're teaching technology. Anything you can find out there, feed it to them. Something will sink in. Something will sink in. And my students, I see a lot of them. Oh, I remember when you did that. Yeah, okay, perfect. You threw candy around the room. Oh, great. You remember me for that. Yeah. Give them the power. What I tell them is, you have the power to do whatever you want. I'm done. You know, you figure it out. So, you know, just be you.
I like that. And being able to pass on those life skills. I think that's a lot of what career and technical education is all about, because sometimes these students just don't have people talking about these types of skills explicitly with them. So it's an opportunity to really give them a leg up before they go into that workforce environment. So I think that's powerful. Thank you, Lenice. Yvonne, any thoughts from you for last pieces of advice to share with our attendees?
Yes, definitely project-based activities. So in addition to preparing them for the certification test, you know, I like G-Mentored, I like LearnKey as well, because they actually have the students to do step by step. You know, it's based on projects now, not just, okay, how do you bold? How do you italicize? How do you underline? So if they are already creating documents and creating, you know, with the hands-on experience with the project-based activities, it makes it much easier for them to become certified. And I just cannot, you know, project-based activities, hands-on, let them really create documents. All right. In the digital marketing, you know, now we are transitioning. I am transitioning a lot from the Adobe products to, you know, just Canva, right? Where they have to learn how to manipulate the templates, you know, and it's ease of use, but they still can, you know, create awesome documents. So you know, we integrate a lot. Me too.
Yvonne, I love Canva. In fact, I just built a logo for myself because I'm going to start a new side company.
I'm telling you, they can
And-
become entrepreneurs and be digital marketing and social media. So we're really pushing in that in our school.
Yep. And I told them today, I'm going to crowdsource this to you. They were, what's crowdsourcing, guys? And they remembered it. And I'm like, oh, thank you. But the one thing I want to just talk about what I do on the bookkeeping side of that test. I have taken every single question from the 3 tests. And what I do is I put it in Canvas. I give them 10 at a time related to what they are studying. But they, rather than using geometrics, because all they're going to do is memorize the test, when we review the test, they got to give me the answers. Okay, these are your 4 answers. Why did you pick these 2? What's a balance sheet? So I do that. I try to stay away from them memorizing the test.
Right.
It's not going to do them any good.
Yeah.
When they have to take a bookkeeping test.
Yeah. And I think that's what you were touching on as well, Yvonne, that it's about immersing them into not just rote memorization, but creating and developing.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Being able to develop what they're going to be asked to do when they walk into these jobs. It's about being able to do it in kind of that almost padded environment of the classroom where it's okay to fail. It's okay to practice. It's okay to not know. It's much easier to fail there and to learn in the classroom than it is to learn on the job. So I love that you've both touched on that. And I think that that's super powerful. Any final thoughts from Lenice or Yvonne that you wanted to share before we wrap up today?
Are there any questions from anybody?
You know what? It looks like everyone's just giving lots of nods of yeses and totally agree, which is really great. You have a lot of people on your side. I think that we have lots of people who are really interested, and we just had a question here dropped into the chat. Do I have access to a recording of this session? Yes, we want to make sure that as many people as possible are able to watch this session. So we'll be posting it, and let me actually pull the link so that everyone can have a chance to see that. We post these on our blog, which I'll drop here into the chat, and we also post them on our Certiport YouTube page so that people can have a chance to look at these after. We love the advice that is shared in these sessions, and we love these educators who are sharing their expertise. So we make sure to post these after our sessions have wrapped live so that people can watch back on the recording. So
I see that Tara just threw something up there. Tara, I'm so sorry that you don't have software to use. I would go out and Google free accounting software. There's so much out there that's free. I think Hannah's going to provide our email addresses to you. Feel free to reach out. There is tons of free stuff if your school isn't going to go and get you a textbook that you can use online. There's so much out there. So just reach out. You always can wheel and deal with all these companies. Believe me. Believe me, you can say, if you want to try the book I'm using, I'll get you a book. I'll get you a book. I'll get my contact, get her on the phone, email her, and tell us, look, I got a teacher that really wants to look at the book. Please send her a complimentary copy. They will do it. That's what they do. So, and give her access to your website so she can try it. Please reach out to us. There's so much out there, and I'm on Google all the time. I found these fabulous handouts. And see if I can find one real quick. And Yvonne, you're going to crack up at this. Okay. Can you see that, everybody? Okay. It's this funny, hysterical explanation of financial statements. And my students went off the chart about it because they're visual. Some of them are visual learners. So there is so much out there, so much. So I'm here, reach out to me. It might take me a couple days, but I'll get back to you, I promise.
Awesome. Thank you so much for offering that, Lenice. Go ahead, Yvonne.
Amandine, that's exactly what I was getting ready to share, that you can become an Intuit educator and your students will receive QuickBooks Desktop or the online version for free.
I
Also,
was just going to talk about that. Perfect.
good.
Yeah, no, I think that that's great. We have members of our Intuit team who are actually attending this session who are sending me chats on the fly, and they wanted to call out that Intuit does offer a free year of Intuit QuickBooks Online for educators and their students.
Yep.
So if you haven't looked at that, if you didn't know that that was available, please look into that. It's on the Intuit website. And Yvonne, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the project-based activities are included with this as well. You also have an awesome platform where you can add your students and help them set it up. So I use it all the time. It is a great tool to use. Definitely.
Fabulous. Thank you so
create
much.
Different companies for the students as well, like the service-based business or the project-based business. That's it. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Yvonne. We did have a question just come through. What is your advice to a teacher who does not offer accounting? We do not offer it at our school, would like to introduce simple accounting terms. What is the appropriate grade level to do this? What subject area would you implement it in other than accounting? So Lenise, since you're our middle school teacher, I think this is a good question for you.
What go out online and look for a simple finance course. The AICPA on their website has a fabulous program. In fact, I got one the other day. There's a finance lab. Ashley, do me a favor, send me an email. I just threw my email address out there. Send me an email, and with this question, I'm going to shoot a picture of it, and I will get you hooked up with some great stuff online. There is so much, and for me, the earlier the better. 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. I would put it in math. We some of our math teachers on the middle school do the stock market challenge. I use, believe this or not, my students do Monopoly. I have 3 different versions of Monopoly. They're a real estate investor. They do the debits and credits. They have to balance their cash. They have to do a balance sheet, and they have to do an income statement at the end of each game. So at the end of each time we play the game, Monopoly is fabulous. Use it that way. Come up with a simple worksheet for them. It doesn't have to be as big as what I do. Just count your cash at the end of the day. Pretend they have debit cards, make debit cards for them. What does a debit card mean? Believe it or not, my students don't even know how to do a bank reconciliation until I taught them the other day. Because why? I get my balance every day on my phone. What do I care? I don't do it anymore. I don't even do it anymore. But for a business, you have to.
You have to do it.
So, you can use anything. I don't care what it is. There's plenty of stuff out there. Teachers pay teachers is a huge resource, and so much is free. That's where I got this little flyer with the cartoons on it. So, reach out. If I can't find it, somebody else will find it.
Yvonne, I wanted to get your thoughts on that one as well.
I definitely play Jeopardy with my students, as well as I access this software, this free flashcard called Quizlet. So that helps with the vocabulary portion of the accounting terms. So playing Jeopardy, there's a lot of free Jeopardies that have already been created that you have access to, that you can share with your students, as well as the Quizlet software. I love that. Quizlet flashcards. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's great. And I wanted to just put in a quick plug as well for our certified educator community. I think that being able to network with educators like Yvonne and Lenise and these other teachers who are teaching similar classes to what you're covering is a good opportunity to ask these types of questions. When do I introduce this? If I'm not teaching accounting, how can I still give my students some basic accounting skills when they walk out of my class? So I love the idea of joining this group so that you can ask those questions and collaborate together. It's on LinkedIn, and I just dropped a link into the chat for that as well. We're running short on time, so I'll wrap up. And also, yes, thank you, Sabrina, who just dropped that into the chat, making sure to attend our Certified Educator Conference that's happening in Orlando in June. And let me actually, before we close out, I'll grab the link for that as well. For those who haven't heard of that, who would like to join us, we would love to have you, happening June 26th through the 28th this year in Orlando, Florida. Just as a couple of items as we wrap up, we are so excited that you spent some time with us today, and we want to continue this conversation going forward. So next week, we are going to have a panel about learning outcomes and how to make sure that you're mapping your curriculum to what industry is looking for. So the link that I dropped into the chat earlier with our blog has all of the information that's going to be happening for next week's session, as well as sessions happening in the next couple of weeks throughout the rest of March about partnering in business, how to prepare adult learners and higher education. So lots of amazing sessions coming up in the next couple of weeks. A part of this program as well is that we are offering, for those who want to register for our boot camp, we are also offering the opportunity for you to take a certification exam yourself. Experience it before you give it to your students, so you're not going into it blind with your kids. So if you're interested in taking any of the certifications that have been highlighted today, the Intuit Certified Bookkeeping Professional or the QuickBooks exam, we would ask that you reach out to us if you haven't already registered for our boot camp, and we can talk you through next steps for how to get access to that so that you can experience it before you offer it to those that you're teaching. A huge thank you to Lenise and Yvonne. Thank you for sharing your advice, all of your wisdom and counsel with all of our educators here today. And we look forward to seeing you all in the coming weeks. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Bye-bye.